Hey Raider Nation, Michelle here, and I've got a question that's been buzzing around in the silver and black community. What if I told you that Pete Carroll, yes, the Pete Carroll from the Seahawks, could be the next head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders? That's right. I know it's a bold claim, but stick with me. Today, we're diving into why Pete Carroll could be the riskiest hire the Raiders could make, and why this could be a game changer for the team. You don't want to miss this, so buckle up. Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty, let's take a quick look at the contenders. The Raiders have already been speaking to some big names for this head coaching job. Names like Steve Spagnuolo and others have been floating around, but no one has the resume like Pete Carroll. So what makes him the riskiest hire? Stay tuned, because I'll break it down for you. Alright, let's talk about Pete Carroll for a moment. The man has been in the game since 1973, and his resume? Impressive. He's been everywhere from the New York Jets to the New England Patriots, USC, and most notably, the Seattle Seahawks, where he built a powerhouse defense. A Super Bowl victory and multiple NFC championship appearances under his belt. This guy knows how to win. But why is hiring him risky? At 73 years old, Carroll's time as a head coach might be limited. If the Raiders bring him in, they'd have to plan for the future, and that's where things get tricky. Despite his age, Carroll is still widely respected for his leadership and defensive acumen. Raider fans, we know how important a strong defense is. But the risk here is that the Raiders could be facing a short-term solution. What happens when Carroll decides to step away from the game? Is the team ready to make the transition to the next coach smoothly? This is why some fans are divided about the idea of bringing in the legendary coach. It's a gamble, but it could pay off. So, let's dig deeper into why this move could be risky for the Raiders. The biggest concern? Carroll's age. At 73, he's a coach on borrowed time. While he may be in great shape and showing no signs of slowing down, the fact remains that he won't be around forever. If the Raiders hire him, they have to consider what happens when his time is up. And that brings us to the next major challenge: succession planning. If you bring in Pete Carroll, you also need to have a solid plan in place for who takes over after him. The Raiders would need to find a replacement head coach while also maintaining stability. Not to mention, Carroll is known for being a defensive-minded coach, so the team would need to bring in an offensive coordinator who could run the offense and potentially step up as the next head coach. That's three critical hires the Raiders would have to nail down to make this work. No pressure, right? Now, let's take a step back and look at the current coaching search. The Raiders have been reaching out to multiple candidates, including the Chiefs' defensive coordinator, Steve Spagnuolo. While some names haven't been officially confirmed, the buzz around Pete Carroll is hard to ignore. According to reports from Jocelyn Anderson, Carroll is gaining more interest from the Raiders brass, and some insiders believe he's the frontrunner. But the question is, do the Raiders want to take the risk? It's clear that the Raiders are taking their time with this decision. Hiring Carroll could bring instant credibility and leadership to the team, but there's still a lot to consider. The organization must weigh the pros and cons carefully. And if Carroll doesn't work out, who else is in line? Will they take another shot at a younger, offensive-minded coach, or stick with the defensive route? I've heard a lot of people argue that Pete Carroll's age is irrelevant. And I get it. Age is just a number, right? But there's no denying that Carroll is nearing 74, and the Raiders would have to be realistic about his longevity in the role. Sure, the man doesn't show signs of slowing down, but we all know that eventually, Father Time catches up with everyone. If the Raiders do hire him, they'll need to have a plan for life after Carroll. The team will need to start grooming the next head coach, especially if they want to keep the momentum going. The transition from one coach to another can be difficult, but with the right plan in place, it could be seamless. The big question here is, can the Raiders afford to take that risk? Pete Carroll's legacy speaks for itself. From building the Legion of Boom defense in Seattle to creating a winning culture, Carroll has proven he can turn teams into contenders. And let's not forget, he's been successful at every level from the NFL to college football. But now, as he enters the twilight years of his coaching career, it's not just about his past accomplishments. It's about how his leadership could shape the future of the Raiders. This is where things get complicated. While his experience and ability to build a strong team culture would be invaluable to the Raiders, they also need to think about the long-term implications. How much longer can Pete Carroll sustain his success? And will the Raiders be prepared for a coaching change when the time inevitably comes? One of the key reasons the Raiders are looking for a new head coach is to establish a fresh identity. This team has been in flux for a while, and they need a coach who can bring stability and a clear direction. Pete Carroll could be that guy, but there's no question he'd be a short-term fix. If the Raiders are looking for long-term success, they might need to think beyond just hiring Carroll. They need to find a coach who can build something sustainable, something that lasts beyond one era. The question here is, does Carroll fit into that vision? He's an incredible coach, but the Raiders' rebuild could take longer than the next few years of his career. As much as we all respect Pete Carroll, this hire may require the Raiders to take an even bolder step, a step towards a coach who can lead for the long haul. If the Raiders do go down the path of hiring Pete Carroll, they'll need to build a strong coaching staff around him. This means bringing in not just a talented offensive coordinator, but also a defensive coordinator who can complement Carroll's defensive style. It's not just about one person. This is about assembling a team of coaches who can take the Raiders to the next level. As I see it, the Raiders' best bet would be to pair Carroll with a dynamic offensive mind, someone young and innovative who could learn under Carroll's tutelage. Someone like Mike LaFleur, who has experience calling plays and could take the reins when Carroll steps down. Pair that with a defensive coordinator who knows how to implement Carroll's defensive philosophies, and you've got the foundation for a successful team. But let's not sugarcoat this. Hiring Pete Carroll could be a gamble. It could work out perfectly, but it could also backfire if the Raiders don't make the right follow-up hires. The big concern here is that Carroll, while a brilliant coach, won't be around forever. So, what's the backup plan? The Raiders need to make sure they're not just hiring for the present, but for the future. If Carroll leaves after a few seasons, who's next? The Raiders need to make sure they have a succession plan in place. The goal is to build a long-term contender, and that means being prepared for a smooth coaching transition. It's a challenge, but one the Raiders need to think about carefully. So, the million-dollar question remains. Is hiring Pete Carroll worth the risk? On one hand, he's one of the most successful coaches in NFL history. On the other hand, he's 73 years old, and the Raiders would need to make several key decisions to ensure that the team can continue to thrive after he's gone. This is a decision that could define the Raiders' future for years to come. Will the risk of hiring Carroll pay off? Or will the Raiders find themselves looking for yet another head coach in just a few years? Only time will tell, but one thing's for sure. The Raiders are about to make a move that could shape the direction of this franchise for a long time. Raider Nation, what do you think about Pete Carroll as the next head coach? Is he the right fit for the silver and black, or should the Raiders take a different path? I want to hear from you in the comments. Your thoughts are what drive these conversations. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more Raiders news and updates. We've got plenty more content coming your way, and you won't want to miss what's next. Until next time, stay strong, stay passionate, and always bleed silver and black.
The Las Vegas Raiders are in desperate need of a transformation, and Todd Monken might be the answer. With his success in college football and experience in the NFL, Monken has the tools to bring a fresh start to the franchise. The Raiders' 2024 season was a disappointment, marked by inconsistency and missed opportunities. The team's offense, despite having stars like Davante Adams and Josh Jacobs, struggled to find rhythm. Hiring Monken could be the first step in turning things around. Fans are eager for a new leader who can energize the team and make them competitive again. Monken's arrival would signify a commitment to innovation and a departure from the old ways. For those unfamiliar, Todd Monken is a football mastermind with a proven track record. Most recently, he served as the offensive coordinator for the Georgia Bulldogs, where he led one of the most dominant offenses in college football. Before Georgia, Monken spent time in the NFL, including stints with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Cleveland Browns. His offensive schemes are known for being adaptable and explosive, a perfect fit for the modern NFL. Monken's coaching philosophy is built on maximizing player strengths and exploiting defensive weaknesses. This approach has made him a sought-after candidate for coaching roles at every level. Monken's success at Georgia cannot be overstated. Under his leadership, the Bulldogs won back-to-back national championships, thanks in large part to an offense that was both creative and efficient. Quarterback Stetson Bennett, who who many had written off early in his career, flourished under Monken. He turned into a Heisman Trophy finalist and led the team to unprecedented success. If Monken can bring that same magic to the Raiders, the possibilities are endless. His ability to develop talent and craft innovative game plans could be exactly what the franchise needs. Davante Adams and Josh Jacobs are two of the most talented players in the NFL, but they haven't been utilized to their full potential. Monken's arrival could change that. Adams, a top-tier receiver, thrives in systems that prioritize creativity and precision. Monken's offensive schemes are tailor-made for a player of his caliber, allowing him to shine in ways fans haven't seen yet. Josh Jacobs, on the other hand, could benefit from Monken's balanced approach to the running game. Monken knows how to integrate a strong ground attack with an aerial assault, making Jacobs an even bigger threat. What sets Todd Monken apart from other coaching candidates is his adaptability. He's not married to one system or philosophy. Instead, he adjusts his approach based on the talent at his disposal. This is a stark contrast to previous Raiders coaches, who often tried to force players into rigid systems. Monken's flexibility would allow the team to maximize its strengths and minimize its weaknesses. In a league where innovation often determines success, Monken's willingness to evolve could give the Raiders a much-needed edge. If there's one thing Todd Monken excels at, it's developing quarterbacks. The Raiders' struggles to find stability at this position could finally end under his guidance. Stetson Bennett, as mentioned earlier, is a prime example. Before Monken, few believed in his potential, but with Monken's mentorship, Bennett became the centerpiece of one of the most dominant offenses in college football. What sets Todd Monken apart from other coaching candidates is his adaptability. He's not married to one system or philosophy. Instead, he adjusts his approach based on the talent at his disposal. This is a stark contrast to previous Raiders coaches, who often tried to force players into rigid systems. Monken's flexibility would allow the team to maximize its strengths and minimize its weaknesses. In a league where innovation often determines success, Monken's willingness to evolve could give the Raiders a much-needed edge. If there's one thing Todd Monken excels at, it's developing quarterbacks. The Raiders' struggles to find stability at this position could finally end under his guidance. Stetson Bennett, as mentioned earlier, is a prime example. Before Monken, few believed in his potential. But with Monken's mentorship, Bennett became the centerpiece of... Now imagine what Monken could do with Aidan O'Connell, or even a new draft pick. His track record suggests he could transform a promising talent into a franchise quarterback. Monken is known for an offensive style that blends creativity and aggression. He loves a dynamic aerial attack but also understands the importance of a strong running game. This balance is crucial for the Raiders, especially with Josh Jacobs on the roster. Moreover, Monken is adept at tailoring game plans to exploit opponents' weaknesses. He's not the type of coach to stubbornly stick to one strategy, which is something the Raiders have lacked in recent years. With Monken at the helm, fans can expect an offense that's both unpredictable and deadly. He knows how to keep defenses on their heels, a skill that could propel the Raiders back into playoff contention. Todd Monken isn't the only name on the Raiders' shortlist. Other candidates like Ben Johnson, Eric Bieniemy, and Brian Callahan are also in the mix. However, Monken's versatility and experience in crafting explosive offenses set him apart. Eric Bieniemy, for example, has a strong resume with the Chiefs, but questions remain about his ability to succeed without Andy Reid. Ben Johnson is a rising star, but his lack of experience is a concern. Monken, on the other hand, offers a complete package of innovation and proven results. If the Raiders want a coach ready to lead immediately and deliver results, Monken seems to be a step ahead of the competition. Picture this. Todd Monken arrives in Las Vegas and immediately sets to work reshaping the offense. Significant changes to the playbook would likely follow, maximizing the talents of Davante Adams, Hunter Renfrow, and Josh Jacobs. Monken would also bring a new approach to the team's preparation, focusing on attention to detail. This could drastically reduce the penalties and communication errors that plagued the Raiders in 2024. While the first year under Monken might not result in a championship, it would lay a solid foundation for a winning culture. Fans would finally have reason to believe the team is on the right track. Though Todd Monken is primarily an offensive mind, he understands the importance of a strong defense. He'd likely bring in an experienced defensive coordinator to complement his offensive vision. With Max Crosby anchoring the defensive line, the Raiders already have a solid foundation. Monken would need to tweak the schemes and address key positions through the draft and free agency. Fans have longed for a team that's dangerous on both sides of the ball. Under Monken's leadership, that dream could finally become a reality. Of course, no coach enters the NFL without facing challenges. For Monken, the biggest hurdle would be managing the high expectations of Raiders fans and ownership. The pressure for immediate results is real. Additionally, he'd have to work with a roster still in transition. Finding a reliable quarterback and strengthening the offensive line would be top priorities, but these tasks take time and patience. That said, Monken's career is full of examples of overcoming adversity. If anyone can handle the challenges of coaching the Raiders, it's him. One of the most critical factors for Monken's success would be earning the support of Raider Nation. Known as one of the most passionate fan bases in the league, they're also among the most demanding. A Monken would need to win them over with convincing victories and an exciting style of play. His knack for creating high-powered offenses could make a big impression on the fan base. If Raider Nation buys into Monken's vision, the sky's the limit. The synergy between coach, players, and fans could create an unstoppable force, finally bringing the Raiders back to prominence. Hey Raider Nation, how are you all doing? It's your #1 fan here, and today we're diving headfirst into the latest news that's stirring up the Las Vegas Raiders. You won't want to miss what's coming up. We're talking about a new general manager, the future quarterback of our team, and even Mark Davis's silence. So grab your drink, adjust your cap, and come along with me on this journey. Let's kick things off with an intriguing point. Mark Davis has been strangely quiet. Usually he's the first person to step into the offseason discussions, but this year, what's going on? It's like Davis is watching everything from a distance, while Tom Brady seems to be taking the reins. Is he waiting for the right moment to shine, or just enjoying the show from the sidelines? Speaking of missed opportunities, how many of you were excited about the possibility of Ben Johnson leading the team? Well, he decided to sign with the Bears. Now, this doesn't mean we should panic because there are always new candidates on the horizon. Who do you think could become the new head coach of the Raiders? Drop your suggestions in the comments. But let's bring in some good news. The new general manager, John Spytek, has been confirmed. He comes from the Buccaneers, where he climbed the ranks and has an impressive track record. Since 2016, he's worked hard as the director of player personnel, rising to assistant GM. What does this mean for us Raiders? It's time to revitalize our team. Now that Spytek is on board, all eyes are turning toward the draft. And who's on the radar? The exceptional quarterback Shedeur Sanders. With the possibility of a major trade to secure the first pick, the push to draft him could heat up. Are you excited about the idea of Sanders as our future QB? Recently, CBS Sports talked about this bold strategy of making moves in the draft. Chris Trapasso mentioned that Tom Brady's connection to Sanders could be a determining factor. So, if Brady believes Sanders can take our team to the next level, do you think the front office will have the guts to make that move? Let's face it, Raiders fans, Aiden O'Connell as our starting quarterback cannot be the long-term plan. It's time for us to take a bold step. And if Brady really pushes for Sanders, will we be ready for it? We're just one step away from transformation. But what if all of this is just a dream? Who here fears seeing the Raiders stumble again? What do you think could derail this search for a new quarterback? Let's discuss. And just to spice things up, we know Spytek also has a significant scouting background. This means we should expect an intelligent approach in the draft, with possible trades and movements to secure talent, not just at QB, but at all positions that our Raiders need to strengthen. Social media is on fire. What does Raider Nation think about all of this? Have you seen the fans' reactions? Is everyone optimistic or skeptical? Share your thoughts and let's create a healthy debate. The stakes are high and the horizon is filled with opportunities. If we don't take bold steps now, when will we? It's time to turn talk into action. And Raider Nation, we need you to join this journey. Spytek knows he has a great responsibility on his shoulders. He needs not only a talented roster, but also to shape a philosophy that will withstand challenges. What would you like to see as the new identity of the Raiders under his leadership? And of course, we can't forget about Brady. His influence is already changing the organization's dynamics. It's the Brady show now. What do you think about this? Can Tom really bring the wins we all desire? The media and fans alike are keeping their eyes peeled for every move, tweet, and rumor. What do you think we should pay attention to during this off-season frenzy? Comment below. Expectations are high, and the future is packed with opportunities. If we don't act boldly now, when will we? It's time to transform conversation into action, and Raider Nation, we need you to participate in this journey. Now that you're up to date on the latest news and expectations for the Las Vegas Raiders, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, comment your thoughts on all this, and share with your friends. Together, we'll show the strength of Raider Nation. Onward, Raider Nation, and see you next time.
We're just getting started on this exciting journey toward our next title. Stay tuned, as we'll always bring you the hot and pulsating news from our beloved Raiders. Until next time.